Hello, hello! It's me again, Kelsey from Simple Life by Kels, and today I wanted to do a quick video because I know that a lot of people are intimidated by bread, and I need to change that because this bread is so good for you and your family, and there's just nothing better than making a loaf of bread for someone in need or for your kids. They just appreciate it so much, and it's really not that difficult to mix up by hand. I know that people get turned off because they think, oh, I don't have a Bosch or a KitchenAid or something fancy. You don't need anything fancy. I do recommend one tool that has changed my life, my bread making by hand, but you don't have to have it. But if you're in the market and you think that you're going to be making bread or even for batter and stuff, this is amazing. My best friend. This is called a Danish dough whisk. I had no idea what it was until a few years ago, but it is awesome. You know when you're making pancake batter with a traditional whisk and everything gets clumped up in the middle and it's so frustrating and you're like banging it against the side of your bowl trying to get all the clumps out, and then it just is frustrating. This won't do that. Obviously there's no middle for it to catch in. This little hole right here, the design is genius, and it just pulls everything down to the bottom and mixes it well, and I use this for waffles and pancakes all the time and for mixing up a quick loaf of bread, which I'm going to show you how to do today and show you how easy it is. The bread I'm going to be making is my easy sourdough Dutch oven loaf, which again, you don't have to have a Dutch oven to bake it in. It just makes it, the Dutch oven just basically makes it that nice artisan, like crusty on the outside, nice and crisp kind of a loaf, which you can also achieve in the oven. It's just gonna be a little bit different in texture. So I love this bread, and it's so pretty and nice to take to people, and my family loves it. So that's what I'm gonna make today. It's simple ingredients. I've got my raw honey, some salt, I have my flour, my whole wheat flour, and I'm also going to use, I have this bucket of, it's an artisan flour blend from Honeyville Grain, and it's called Alta flour, and I use that sometimes, or I use like an unbleached all-purpose if I'm looking for a lighter bread. Typically when I'm going to take it to someone, I make it a lighter bread. I never make like an all-white loaf, and then I have my starter, which, just so you can see, this is what you want your starter to look like if you're going to bake bread. It's super airy, it's super light, full of bubbles. All those bubbles are just so happy. These are the happy bubbles that you're looking for. So my starter looks great. So starter, flour, salt, honey, and water, and that's it. A pretty basic loaf. So I'm going to do first, I'm going to double this loaf. So if you're following along and you think, wait a minute, that's not the recipe. I'm not going to actually go through the recipe, but I'm just going to kind of throw things in and show you how easy it is to mix it up. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure out my starter, give it a stir. It's going to deflate it a little bit, but not to worry. Stir that up. So remember, I'm doubling this recipe if you're confused. I want to make 2 loaves, so I have one to gift, which I always love to do. So I'm gonna use 1.5 cups of starter, maybe half. With my minimalist tendencies and lifestyle that I'm trying to achieve with my family, with owning fewer things, I only have one set of measuring cups as far as these go, and then I have a couple of glass larger ones. So I always just wash them real quick and use them again if I need them in the same recipe. So I've got 1.5 cups of starter. Really easy. Set that aside. I'm going to add a tablespoon of salt. And and 2 tablespoons of honey. With this raw honey, it likes to crystallize, but I just throw it in anyway, and I'm just kind of guesstimating. That's kind of how I roll. So sorry if you're a very strict measurer. Sometimes in my recipes I find it hard to try and get the measurements right because I'm always throwing things in, so I always have to go back and remake things and measure before I publish a recipe, so I make sure that everyone can make it, and I'm not just saying a pinch of this or a little bit of that. Honey, so good for you. I'm going to add a cup of this Alta flour and a cup of the whole wheat flour, maybe 2 cups of whole wheat. This is a hard white wheat that I ground myself. And then I'm going to add my water. I'm going to add 2 cups to start. And then I take the whisk and I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm just mixing it. Get everything mixed together. You can see that. Sorry, I'm not a professional videographer yet. So I like to leave it at this stage where it's kind of a shaggy mass like that. Everything's kind of incorporated, and I'm going to leave this for about 20 to 30 minutes. Well, this phase is called the autolyze phase in bread making, and what we're doing is we're just incorporating those ingredients, but not all the flour. And then we're allowing that flour to soak up a lot of the moisture. And what this does is if you're letting the flour soak up a lot of that moisture, you're not going to overkill on the flour. A lot of times when you're just mixing up a loaf of bread and you just dump in all the flour it calls for, you're going to add too much flour, and then your loaf is going to be heavy and just not as light. So this autolyze phase allows that flour to soak up the moisture in the starter and the water, and it just really lets you get a nice lighter loaf. So it's a very important phase that really changed my bread making when I learned that. Several years ago, it really made sense to me, and when I started doing it, my loaves just got a lot better. So that's a tip. If you're not doing that, try it and see how it changes your loaves and changes how much flour you're adding. That will make a difference. So I'll see you back in a little bit. While this dough is sitting, it's a really good time to feed your starter. I just like to multitask, and so I have about a cup left of starter. So I'm going to add a cup of water. Remember, when you're feeding your starter, you never want to go below the amount of starter you have. So if I have a cup, I have to feed it at least 1 cup. You can always feed it more to get more starter, but at least the amount that you have in your jar. If I have a half a cup of starter, I need to feed it at least a half cup of water and flour so it has enough food. So I've got a cup in there. I'm going to add a cup of flour. Always making a mess. That's why I always have, my mother-in-law taught me this trick. She always has a dish towel over her shoulder, and I just kind of picked up on it, and it works, especially when you're in the kitchen as much as I am. I'm always looking for the dish towel, so keeping it over my shoulder helps a lot. It's always with me. It doesn't help other people who need it, but it helps me. So there, I just took 1 minute while my bread is sitting, and I fed my starter a little bit more flour. Make it nice and thick. Here we go. I always like to just kind of push the sides down. I don't know why. It just makes sense, I guess. There you go. Now it's all fed. I can put it in the fridge and it will be ready in a day or two to make something else.